How's it going, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It is the Sith Council Big Thing episode, The Acolyte, episode 7, the penultimate episode of the show. And we're going to talk about it in full spoiler detail, so hang on, because man, oh man, this episode stinks. It's bad. That is a bad episode, really bad. And I don't care. This is one of those ones where I'm like, all right, I guess I just didn't see it. I don't understand. If you liked it, you liked it. That's all I can say. If you liked it, you liked it. But there's some stuff that we're going to get into. And yeah, if you don't think we're going to talk about the witches in the wave pool, whoa, you got another thing coming. Because we'll be covering all that and more on whatever the hell this episode was. I haven't spoken to Steph yet about it. I don't know. Maybe she liked it. Maybe she'll be on the counter side. There's no world where Mike Kalinowski liked this episode. There's no world. If he is, then I don't know my friend of the last 25 years. I really don't. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But then again, if you guys liked it, we'll talk about it. There's just a lot going on in this episode. Wookiees with metal detectors and hair buns. Okay, so hit the button, subscribe to it, comment, like, do all that stuff, because we're going to get into it in this episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere podcasts are found. We got interviews, we got reactions, we got it all. All right, let's get into it. It's myself, it's Mike, it's Steph, it's the big thing. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the big thing, Sith Council edition, The Acolyte, episode 7. It's me, Steph Sabra. Hey, Mike Kalinowski. Crew is back. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me ask you this, Mike. I've known you for 25 years. Was I wrong in the assessment of how you felt about this episode, or are you going to shock me?
I feel bad coming on here every week because I'm sure people like this show. And I know people made it. I know hundreds of people went in this show, but the amount of stupid decisions that these characters make
each and every week
boggles my mind like I've never seen in Star Wars. Like, I know we'll get into it. All
right, Steph, so this is basically a bonus episode of episode 3. So what did you think?
I thought that there was parts that I appreciated, and there's parts that I can't understand why certain characters are doing certain things. Mainly this episode, Sol and Torben, I just think need to be shipped off.
The Jedi are absolute idiots in this show. They're absolute idiots.
Indara was okay. I actually appreciated Indara until the end when she's like, what are you going to do? Take away this girl's dreams now? And I'm like, I mean, it's the right thing to do is to tell the council what happened. That's ridiculous to lie for this little girl.
But all of that, any bit of that, of what you just said there, first of all, she was just not even caring about the dream 10 minutes ago. And now she cares about the dream. And why Saul... Look, I understood after spending a little bit of time and looking at Anakin why Qui-Gon was like, look, I got a feeling about this kid. He could be the chosen one. We've been spending some time with him. We've been looking at what he's doing with the races. I've been paying attention to his instincts. I think this kid could be the guy. And so he recruited him after spending some time with him. She's like, you don't have a Padawan. He's like, I don't? How about him? How about her? Can I take her? Yeah. Oh, if I don't take her, my life's not going to be complete. It's like, what are you talking about?
No, it's unfortunately creepy.
Yeah, he's peeking around the corner every second. All right, one of the reasons that we started is I took all these pictures, and there's no world where I'm going to have spent all of that time having to go through this episode again and not show these pictures. So. Okay. Let's do it.
You have to show the two things that I need to complain about. You have to.
We're going to talk about the witch whirlpool in depth.
That's not it. That's not even it.
Were you laughing like I was going, ooh?
I was laughing when they had the big head alien up front.
That's what I'm saying. She was right. It was so stupid. I audibly laughed out loud. This is the worst episode of Star Wars television ever.
Wait, and no way.
It's the worst. It's the worst. What's worse than this?
I think 3.
Steph, I feel like we're going to change your mind.
Okay, at least we're going to get into it, but at least like we got to hear from the Jedi side, and at least for me, because the biggest, most heartbreaking problem for me is like I don't want to be a Jedi after that episode. Like these people are just like stealing children. But this episode, it's like the council isn't for that. They were gonna say leave them alone. I do like those justifications. Everything else doesn't make sense. It's kind of forced plot work to get what they wanted.
Yeah, it's like you got a good piece of cheese on a crappy piece of pizza.
Right.
It's like, so, I mean, there was 80% of this episode we've seen already. We saw it already.
Right.
And then so 20%, we got some new information. And then still, does anybody know, A, why the young Padawan wind up taking the poison after this? And B, why he has a receding hairline?
What?
After 8 years?
That, Torben.
Sucks.
He's a Jedi. His job is to travel the galaxy, bringing peace to the galaxy.
I want to go back to Coruscant.
I'm on this island and I want to go home. Wait, that's how we go home? I gotta go. He went after her and destroyed the whole thing.
You're in the wrong business, kid.
Go home. Get the.
You're in the wrong business.
Nonsense.
You're in the wrong business. If you like,
and I'm gonna tell you something. How we fix that? You want to know how?
Don't write it.
They do the whole thing where the witches take him over. Okay, the witches take him over. His mind goes fucked. He's like, holy shit, this is awful. I don't know if I want to be a Jedi anymore. I can't do this.
Right. There's a reason.
Get out of here.
There's a reason.
No, he's fine.
Right. Afterwards.
He's a Jedi with Obi-Wan Kenobi level skills. Clearly, he likes doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. Right. I want to go home.
Right. Like after he's corrupted. After he's corrupted,
then he's like, have him on the ship, shaking and having terrors, night sweats. And like, wait, that girl's our way out of here. I'm out of here.
Right. And
but they don't do that because the writing stinks.
It's really really bad. So yeah, Steph, I think it's one of the worst. And I have never laughed out loud like this. Like 5 and I'll tell you, and I'm going to go back to Mike's point here, where he was saying that he doesn't know, like Vanessa, the actress that plays Vanessa, he can't necessarily hasn't seen any of her previous work, so doesn't know if you can blame the actress or more so the directing, right? I don't the Zabrak has been in other stuff before, correct? The actress?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not as familiar, but I remember looking at her.
And I might know her from other stuff, and I might have liked her work.
IMDb, let me see.
She was done no service in this episode because I laughed out loud 5 times with her. Like, one of the main times when she looks up, run, was the first one. And the second...
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff.
And then the second one, fight me. And I'm like, who's directing this? I'm like, stop this.
Here's the thing.
I literally, Mike said at one point in my reaction, I said, stop this.
Here's the thing. Some actors just are not meant for Star Wars. Or they need to be directed. Like, look at Natalie Portman. No one's going to say she's not a great actress. In Star Wars, not her best work. Because George Lucas is not an actor's director. But you got someone like Ewan McGregor who doesn't need to be directed, and he's chewing it up.
I'll blame
those actors in this Star Wars. They need to be directed.
I'll blame it on the directing because I don't, and I know Leslie Headland didn't direct this one, but she's overseeing it. I don't think this is the banger of the episode that Leslie Headland thought it was.
She thought it was a banger?
Yes, because otherwise you don't place this as episode 7. Usually episode 7 is like the penultimate episode, which is usually most shows at episode 7. You're like, oh my God, what is that going to do for the finale? This is like, what did this do? This is a show that cost $170 or $180 million, whatever it cost. And they essentially shot one episode. They shot one episode. This is one episode that they shot. They shot everything this day, or however many course of the days and weeks that it took to shoot this episode. But they shot 2 episodes. And they said, all right, well, this is the stuff we're not going to show. We're going to save that for episode 7 because they're going to be so invested in this lead. And it comes down to the point that we keep making. The twins are not a story that anyone is caring about in the way that they want them to. Like this story where we thought it was going to be about the Sith, the story where we thought it was going to be, all three of us here thought this was going to be a show about the evil, the Sith, the building of it, and instead they gave you this story about the twins, and it's not compelling at all. Steph, go ahead.
This should have been episode 3. I didn't need the mystery of it because I get what they were going for, but instead we all just made assumptions by what was put on the screen, and then we just went through the next episodes hating the Jedi, and then got to this episode to find out that half of them still suck.
Yeah.
And they should have just made this episode 3. And it sucks because I watched this because you guys know I had a busy week last week. I watched this back to back with last week's episode.
Okay.
I really liked last
Me
week's
too.
episode.
As did I.
Manny
Yeah.
Jacinto is like putting the whole team on his back. I think he is so cool to watch.
And he's not in this. And he's not
in this episode. So I finished last week's episode. I was like, and I turned to Harry. I was like, okay. We were both like, I think we're on the up and up. And then he fell asleep during this episode.
I'm jealous. It really is one of those things where how do you not lock into what you have there? You have this story. I felt the same way, Steph, where, I didn't love the big fight, the fight episode, which was the fight episode. Last week, I said the stuff that they were doing with the Sith, that's the show that they told us they were going to give us in the first place. That's the show that, this is what the Acolyte's going to be. I said, okay, well, then let's get into episode 7 and let's keep this going. What happened? Who's his master? What's the overall plan? And then they just give you the full episode. This is like a greatest hits. That's not a hit episode. And so, all right, let's show these pictures.
Okay, yeah,
right.
Let's go through it.
So we start with Brendock 15 years later again. We're like, okay, so we're doing this again. So we've done this already, okay? Then they get to then we get to a ridiculous thing where now they're combing the forest with metal detectors. Jedi with metal detectors. And you have Saul with the big iPad, and he's looking around for stuff, and they're searching for things, and you get the man bun on the Wookiee as he's scrolling around on the beach or whatever the woods looking for virgins through metal detectors. Okay, so I guess they can find. So again, making no sense, and then you get the soon to be receding hairline sitting on the tin can, missing Coruscant. He's talking to whatever he's doing, and then you go to the campfire. We find out about the virgin side of it, and it made me think like, okay, so this is what they might wind up doing. They discover the virgin, so whatever it might be, these two twins, and that ultimately is going to lead to information that whoever the Sith Lord gets a hold of to eventually pass down the line that will get to Palpatine, who will then use it to create Anakin. That's what it seems like. This is where he got his information. Oh, they've done it before in the past with these two twins. And I'm like, I just know. It's like, it goes back to I'm not invested in any of this. And if it wasn't for the actor, would you even like Saul? Kind of sucks.
Oh yeah, he really sucks. Like I've enjoyed his work this entire season because I do think he's been given the most of his character. And you've been curious about what the secret is that he's been keeping. But this episode, I just think it's really strange to form an attachment with a child that you haven't even spoken with. And you haven't even seen do anything.
Right.
She hasn't done anything dope.
And he didn't even know it was her. He didn't even, before he killed her mother, he didn't even know it was her. He thought he's like, OSHA. And it was May. He didn't even know.
Yeah, you didn't get him right. But then also you got to do something with the character, give him motivation, have him come from a line of he was taken from his home or was raised by, sold into child slavery or something where his background makes him connect to her.
Right.
And go, I see what this is a cult.
Right.
I was raised in a cult. The Jedi saved me. I'm going to save her.
Right. There's some kind of connection to it.
You give him.
Right. There's something that connects it in that. And we always.
But there's no reason. Because he doesn't have a Padawan?
No. That's exactly what it is. He's like, one day you'll have a Padawan. All right. And then conveniently, he just wanders into the woods and there's two of them in the woods. Who do you want? Well, I'm not going to really be able to tell which from which. So that one. Oh, not that one, and we'll jump right to the end of it when there's that. You guys remember that Steph? I don't know. If we might be a little.
I know what you're going to say.
The Good Son.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood?
Do you ever see that movie, Steph?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
At the end of and for people who haven't seen The Good Son, you're going to get a spoiler. At the end, so this whole movie is about Macaulay Culkin, and Elijah Wood goes to live with them. And Macaulay Culkin's this rotten little kid, like evil, and he keeps pinning stuff on Elijah. And eventually, Macaulay Culkin's mother knows that he's a bad little dude. He's a bad dude. So they're at this cave. There's at this cliff at the end, and they both fall off the cliff. And the mother catches both of them, her son and not her son, and Elijah Wood, but she knows Elijah's good, and she's got to and she lets Macaulay Culkin fall and die, right?
Yeah.
And that is what happens at the end there. And my question is, if you're using all your strength to hold up a bridge, which is probably hundreds and hundreds of pounds, why not just hold up both the twins who are probably 50 pounds apiece?
Right. Or like connect the bridges.
And didn't we?
Yeah.
And didn't we just last show that Disney talked about where people gave crap to the Force because Sabine pushed Ezra and threw Ezra with the Force?
Yeah.
And now here's a guy that's much more powerful than her, but can't do something like that. Like, you gotta.
Why is he holding up the bridge?
Star Wars is a group. These Disney Plus people, they need to get on the same page and give rules for what their Jedi can do
This ain't
and what
Disney
they can't
Plus.
do.
This ain't Disney Plus. This is Lucasfilm.
Then Lucasfilm, get on the same page. Get Pablo Hidalgo back and go, okay, what are the parameters of the Force can we use? Because every show that comes in picks and chooses and manipulates it how they want to fit the story, and it sucks.
Now,
It stinks in Denmark.
Denver. I'll get in trouble here, and that's fine. And I'll ask Steph. Steph, is every guy in this show an idiot?
No, because
Who?
Kymir's not.
Okay, but he's evil. Is there any good guy that's not an idiot or bad? Right. So
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying. And it's like, where's the redhead guy? He was all right. They don't even use him.
But like, is there to counter that?
Yeah.
Because I hear you. Are there any girls that are not an idiot?
Jackie was great.
Okay.
Jackie was great.
Okay, so that's
they had
one.
to kill her off because she was great.
Right, well,
That was one.
Vanestra, they will say, we don't know about how her performance in general, but she's not, she's trying to do the right thing. Vanestra is.
No,
is
she's
good.
an idiot.
Is she?
I can't go into hyperspace because I got my rumbling tummy. No,
She got the toilets.
That was
the
a
shits.
bizarre-
Hyperspace gives her the shits. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, why was that?
I feel bad because I feel the way we're talking, we're devolving into that group of Star Wars that's just
It
complaining.
sucks.
But we don't.
It's not. But this is what I told people on my reaction.
If you watch all of our shows,
Yeah.
we are not like this.
No, but it's what I told people when it came to it last. I said, look, I can't pretend that when there's bad stuff written, that there's not bad stuff written. And I'll tell you some of the stuff. Well, let's go into some of the positive then from Mike's point. I thought that what has worked very well on this show, the fight scenes are phenomenal. They're phenomenal.
They're fantastic.
They're phenomenal.
It
And
looks good too.
It does. It does.
I love the scenery shot.
Yeah, it does. This episode they took a real good advantage of the location.
They did.
And last episode looked
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the fights, and look, even though I don't know how the Padawan, sure, the witches can infiltrate the mind. That easy to infiltrate a Jedi Master's mind in the Wookiee? Okay. I don't know how, but that easy. They had that kind of Hulk moment with Loki, where he's like, you shouldn't have brought him. And then we finally get to see the Wookiee with a lightsaber. Did it look good? Yes. And watching Carrie-Anne Moss fly through the sky doing Trinity style, like to have that fight was all wonderful. It worked really well. The idea of bringing up the Night Sisters, those things, the locations, the music, there are positives here. But the problem is that it just, all of this silliness just outweighs it. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, and I'm sure we get the comments every week. Oh, why do you guys watch it? What it is? Because first of all, we're invested enough into it. I want to see where it now ends, and then Skeleton Crew's right around the corner. I'm gonna watch Skeleton. I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope Skeleton Crew delivers. It can't be any worse. But as we go through there, it's campfire, and they're doing God knows what, and I guess they're discussing the Virgins, and then this is where they have the Carrie-Anne Moss has this conversation about the Padawan thing. Don't worry, one day you'll get your Padawan. She has a glove on, and then he zips through the woods, and this is when Saul gets a bit creepy as he's watching the scene that we've already seen, and he's seeing it again. And here they are, the two twins. He's like, oh, there's two of them. Maybe I can finally have a Padawan. There's, out of all the thousands of kids that we take across the galaxy, and there's probably a ton of them back at the Jedi Temple, I can't find a one. Well, there's two right here. There we go. And they go through the woods, and then here's another scene that makes no. Oh, well, the Zabrak comes out and says, "Wait until you see what I do this episode." And then he tries to call them on his cell phone. It's not working. No reception. He goes to the hut, and they go in there. And now what does he do? He's like, "Oh, you know what? I just watched on Netflix the other day, or whatever it was. I just watched Free Solo. So I'm gonna climb the walls. I'm gonna just climb the walls by myself." With no grappling at all. And it won't take me too long. I'm going to Dread Pirate Roberts style. I'm going to climb it up. And so he climbs it up. And luckily enough, there's still nobody's gone to bed because it probably took him 6 minutes. He didn't use his Jedi Force powers to climb fast. He just climbs. And then we get to that scene where he's, again, creeping around the joint, looking at the same scene we've seen, the training. Someone hears him. And then he goes back to report there's witches afoot. So... anything out there that stands out, Steph?
Well, he said they're not being treated like children, and it's like, are the younglings treated like children at the Jedi Temple?
Right.
It's the exact same training style.
Right.
Different methodology.
It goes back to what Mike said. It all very well could be true, but at what point did what he saw that we saw prove that? Just because they were being trained harshly, and everybody's had bad teachers. What was it in general in that scene that he saw that he could definitively say they got to get out of there?
Yeah, and it could have been. It's like either they make someone or a group actually bad, or they make a scene where it looked actually bad. But they didn't have either of those things, so you're thinking Saul is just an absolute a-hole.
And then I'm thinking, remember, I was like, you got to give this guy some motivation for this. But then I was like, well, the really would be thing if Saul lost a daughter somewhere.
Right.
But he can't have a daughter because he's a Jedi. So, but they wrote themselves, that's the problem. What they wanted to attempt with this script, but they don't have in the Star Wars rules the ability to tell the story. He can't have a kid. Saul can never have had a kid.
Sure, we could have had a sister or a brother.
Yeah, not the same though.
I agree. I agree.
But it's just I saw what they were trying to do. You just can't do it. And again, focus on Manny and getting an Acolyte. Don't need this stuff with the twin. I know.
It's I don't know where it came from, but it seemed like when they. This is what I'm gonna guess happened. This is a pure speculation. There's no world where this is anywhere except me making this up. But I feel like this is what happened. It was pitched as the Sith show, Darkness, the first kind of Breaking Bad type show where you're going to get the evilness of the Sith and how they were built up. And that was how it was pitched, and that was how it was presented in 2020. And then. Now, this very well could have been Disney Plus. Note, really? We're going to have a Sith-led show? Guys, we got to have some good guys, can we? And then it started to evolve a little bit more, or devolve the way you look at it. And then someone says, well, what if we didn't do that? What if we had something about like the story with like, how about like these twins from the different, we use the witches and we use this instead, and instead of like the inner workings of the Sith, because we've seen that already. We don't need to see that again. Let's do a story about these actual twins and these witches and their perception of the Force. Yeah, that's great. And it's like, no, it's not what you told people they were getting. And I think it kind of, that's it. Again, pure speculation, but you can, I saw conversations like that happen when I was working at Warner Brothers about other projects that, well, this probably, like Joel Silver was convinced that a period piece Wonder Woman could never work. It could never work. There's no way. No one would want to see a period piece Wonder Woman ever. So he turned this script that they had brought in after Joss Whedon that was in the 40s, and it was brilliant. And he's like, put it in the 90s, put it in the 2000s, put it out. And it turned out terrible, the script. It never saw the light of day. Then you fast forward to what Patty Jenkins did, and it worked wonders. So it happens all of the time. But I don't know. You get back to this before I do, because man, we're going off on a tangent here. Before I do, I want to save you a lot of time with my rant, but I also want to save you some money. And in order to save you some money, I'll tell you about Rocket Money. And then I got a lot of, man, I've never gotten so many compliments on. I did an out of the theater reaction for Fly Me to the Moon, and everybody was talking about how I lost weight and how I did this. Well, that's partially because of Magic Spoon. And I'll tell you about both Rocket Money and Magic Spoon right now. Here you go. If you're not signed up to Rocket Money, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I've been giving you guys this opportunity, and I'm going to give it to you again because I and John, we've talked about it. I had subscriptions that I sign up for. This happened to me the other day where it was like I signed up for this subscription and I was like, Rocket Money's like, hey, remember this? You signed up for this, dumb. You don't want to pay monthly, do you? And I canceled it. They cancel it for you, and Rocket Money cancels it. And otherwise I would have had to gone through all these different things. It's just linked to my account. It's a personal finance app. It cancels the unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It's been super helpful for me. It lets me know. I had something the other day. It's like, you got a big bill coming up. Remember that? And I was like, remembered it. Managing my finances, it's been a lifesaver. They have over 5 million users, saved over a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions alone, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. So stop wasting money on things you don't need. Cancel your unwanted subscription. Go to rocketmoney.com/thing. That is rocketmoney.com/thing. Now, the other thing that I got to tell you about that I've also been giving you tips about is Magic Spoon. I have been getting really nice comments from people lately and noticing that I've been losing weight and that I've been in shape and doing all these things. And one of the reasons why is because I've been eating better, been paying attention. And one of those things I've been doing is Magic Spoon. And every time I talk about Magic Spoon, I get people right afterwards saying, I just tried it. And then that same person will follow up and go, and I love it. People love Magic Spoon because I loved eating cereal as a kid. But as an adult, you can't do it because of all the sugar, and most of the cereals don't give me the protein that I need. And I found Magic Spoon, which is really great. And it tastes very similar to my childhood favorites, but it doesn't have all the sugar, and it's got a ton of protein. And that's my snack at night. Every serving of Magic Spoon cereal, it's got 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about what you're eating. So the most popular flavors are fruity and cocoa. And there's so many more. I mix the cocoa and the peanut butter personally. But they also have treats. Magic Spoon has brand new treats. They're crispy, they're crunchy, and they're an easy way to get 11 grams of protein on the go. For the first time ever, Magic Spoon treats are available in grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. It's delicious. My friend Dan says, it's really delicious, Kristian. I got to try this Magic Spoon. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/bakething. Or look for Magic Spoon in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/bakething for $5 off. That's Magic Spoon. Hold on to the dream. All right, thank you to our friends over at Magic Spoon and Rocket Money. As I mentioned, I always mention, if you want to help the show out, you want to be part of the show, you want to keep us going, and you like what you see here, get yourself Rocket Money, get yourself Magic Spoon. That helps out. All right, moving along. All right, so back at the campfire or whatever it is, too, they're still talking about this. Hey, we got to go help out these kids. We got to go do this for some reason. Let's go break up their party. There was no life here. Now we know that there are. Who knows what these witches are doing? We got to go disrupt the joint. So let's go figure it out. So they decide they're going to go and infiltrate. And we've seen the scene again. We've seen it once before. We're going to see it again. And here the witches are standing around. And now we get a little bit more of the insight of the infiltration of Torben's mind, to where same thing. I liked this scene was kind of cool, but it's still, you didn't need
didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere. And you also had and the effect of what they were trying to make it creepy, where she'd say one thing and then 8 different voices are saying it. It's like, we get it. He's in a vision. Just you say it normally. It's like, what do you think? 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 Just cut it out. What are you doing? And there was just so much of this where, and I thought, I will, again, another positive, given what she had, Jodie Turner-Smith was phenomenal in this episode.
Yeah, I actually like her character.
Yeah.
I just think that she has some unfair moments. Like, we're going to get to her death scene, which made no sense.
Made no sense whatsoever. In the way that it was presented, in the way that it could have been prevented. It made no sense. And what her overall motivation is, because at one point it looks like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to infiltrate this guy's mind, and I'm going to find out, he wants to go back to Coruscant. That's the big reveal. He feels guilty about wanting to go back to Coruscant, so he decides he wants to go to the meeting. And like, what?
And why?
Yeah, what does he feel
Why
guilty
does he
about?
want to go back?
Right.
Because he just doesn't like what he's doing?
Right.
Guess what, chump? That's your job.
Get a new job.
That's the job of a Jedi. You go to these planets and you just bring peace and you check out disturbances. That's the job.
Yeah,
it's not sitting on Coruscant.
That is that's part of it. It's like, you know what? I want to be a professional baseball player, but I only want to play home games. What are you talking about? What? It's not how it works, chump. What are we doing? It's like,
right.
That's it, though.
You get fired. You get fired. You're fired.
But they needed a reason for him to go to the temple and this, that, and that. So from a writing, and again, I'm not a writer, but my God, and I've never. That's another thing. So I'll defend myself. If you go back and watch all of our episodes of all the Disney Plus Star Wars, I've never complained about the writing ever. Right. So when it stands out, it stinks in Denver. It stinks in Denver.
Something stinks in Denver.
Jesus.
I'll tell you that. Okay, so we get back to this. I guess he's in the vision. We don't really understand why she's infiltrating his mind, but she picks the weakest one again, and then she just finds out he wants to go to Coruscant, and then he's a scene that we've seen already before. So then nobody really gives a shit nobody cares and says, "Hey, what did you just do there?" She's like, we're allowed to take kids," and I was like, "Oh. Okay, well, we don't want you to take our kids. All right, well, we're going to go to the ship and we're going to talk about why we think we need to take your kids. Okay, see you in a little bit." So they have this conversation again and why they need to go back. Saul's really pushing it. And then eventually they realize they got to do the testing scene again, except this time we see the test through May. And Torben is basically trying to do like dollar store Anakin impressions, and then she gives the midichlorian test, and they go M count. They won't say midichlorians anymore. And
why is that?
I don't know. It's at this point, it's like, well, we don't. It caused such a stink last time. So we only know what you're doing. You're doing a midichlorian count, so you might as well just say it. And then it's just the conversations around the table. We can't. Here we go. And then that's the other thing. So this is I found hilarious as well. So here's May, who has been the most loyal to the witches at anybody. They tell her, go in and bomb the audition. And so she goes in and she's just eating it and she's getting everything wrong. And then she's like, "Yeah, look at me. I did everything I was supposed to. All right, tell us everything." And then she just spills the beans about it.
Right.
Everything. It's like, if you're the witches and you're going, "We want you to bomb it," and don't tell these Jedi a freaking thing. Nothing they ask, say nothing. Just stay silent, nod your head, get out of there. I mean, in the Mafia, this kid would be toast. She gave up everything.
Right.
Am I wrong, Steph?
No. I just watched, what's that? A story or a tale in Brooklyn. The Robert
Bronx Tale?
Bronx Tale.
A story in New York.
Tale.
Yeah, a Bronx Tale's
A fable in Queens. What was
Fable in
that?
Queens. Bronx Tale's
The little
great.
kid knew not to snitch. Yeah, it's a great movie.
I did good, Dad. Yeah, you did a good thing. You did a good thing for a bad man.
Yep, exactly.
It's a great movie.
But I completely agree. And then when you find out that they're the same person, I'm like, this is nitpicky, but why wouldn't you have the same actress?
I mean, well, the only thing with that is that they're twins and they, for the most part, look alike. So it's like,
but they have the same actress when they're older. I think maybe I just don't like OSHA. So
It's fair. Yeah, like I said, I was talking to Coy Jandra about this afterwards too, and I said it in my reaction. You know, the problem is, as I was watching this, and maybe it was because it was a rehash of the episode already, I was bored. I was like, I haven't been bored for these. I've noticed bad writing, but I was bored, and I was like, maybe it was because I saw it already, and I'm like, yeah, I know all this already. We know that they took the test. Okay, put in a couple more lines of dialogue with May that she gave up more, and it's leading to the fact that May's going to be the good one. OSHA's going to end up being the bad one. Tragedy. And it's like, so, but I've seen all that. So I was like, are you guys bored at all or not really?
I wasn't necessarily bored, but I kept waiting for us to go forward in time.
Right.
I didn't think that we would be spending the entire penultimate episode back in time and then rehashing a lot of the same things. Like
Right.
some of it was nice to see new color added to the characters' motives.
Yeah.
But then past that, it's just like I wish they had compressed 3 and 7 into one episode.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. Mike, were you bored? You've been
I
bored.
told you, I checked out about 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
But like, with one episode left, and they're not going to wrap it up. They ain't pulling the rabbit trick out of the hat again.
Well,
like,
no, not with a 35-minute episode. This is again
so many things they've done on every Disney Plus, the MCU, the Star Wars. They
You know, we didn't talk about.
Clearly want a season 2.
They know they shouldn't get one.
No chance. No chance.
There's no
I know,
chance.
but I'm just saying that's
you're
what
right.
they made this season for.
You're absolutely right.
Are you kidding me?
You're absolutely right. They
No.
thought they're
But
going
she
for
had said, Headland said, we do this story wraps. We have we have mysteries that we want to tell out of this, but this particular story wraps up.
I'm sorry.
They don't wrap this thing up.
This show needs
with
to,
a bow.
Needs to go to sleep. This show needs to go to sleep. You did a story outside to commend them. They did a story outside of the Skywalker saga. They put it in a different time period. You got to explore a little bit in the High Republic. Great. You get to see a little bit more Jedi. You got to see some locations. But let's
Harloff,
put it to
I
bed.
hear what you're saying. But did they take advantage of that?
No.
They told the same story of Phantom Menace.
That's not my point. Although your point is like, right. But that's a different conversation. I'm just saying they took a shot. At least they didn't explore inside the same place, but they dropped the ball on it, and that's why I'm saying put it to sleep. But what we didn't talk about, and I didn't mention it in my immediate reaction, and I didn't mention it in my reaction because I turned it off as soon as it was over, and then I kept seeing comments about it.
Oh,
how about the post-credit music? Want to talk about that?
Oh,
what's that song? Are these people even paying attention to what Star Wars? The song's fine, but it's the same way that. Did you see the Gladiator trailer? Gladiator 2?
Yes.
A great trailer
Why'd
with music.
they do that?
It didn't fit. The music.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Right.
I mean, now look, it's not connected to actual scenes, but it just you're in the middle of this. You're trying to tell this tragic story of what just happened, and Saul had to lie to this kid and say, "Oh, actually, it was May's fault, and she's dead. She's not gonna be able to say anything." And then it's like, well, he's gonna have to face all of that, and then this music pops in, and then it's like a R&B song, and you're like, what the hell? What is that? It didn't like nothing's fitting. It's like you're not paying attention.
Yeah, it's like they really wanted to question all parts of Star Wars and then say like, okay, like how can we show that we love Star Wars but do our take on it?
Right.
And I think
Fan
it just
stuff.
with the that's a great example. Like the music, it just is just not the move.
like we had said this before. There's, 3 camps of Star Wars. The far one side, the far the other side, and then most of us that are in the middle. And this show has made me realize why the one side gets so angry with what they call the Disney Plus era of Star Wars. Like, because Star Wars is a sandbox.
Yep.
And it's a big one, but you got to play with it. It's like how we felt like when we didn't see the new, it was either Andor or Solo, and there wasn't a scroll at the beginning of the film. It's like,
Right.
that's kind of Star Wars. You do it for the movies. And again, it doesn't affect the movie. Like, song is at the end, but it's like, we've never seen one of those before. It's Star Wars, and it just doesn't fit. It's like,
yeah, it doesn't fit. I mean, I'm just saying. I think Steph said it right. I think you just said it right. It's like it isn't their fault. In the same way that people want to point the finger at Rian Johnson for what he did with Last Jedi, and people want to point the finger here at Leslie Headland for doing this version of it, and you should point the finger at the people who are running the ship because
it's not they came in with what they wanted to pitch.
If I go in and I say, look, I want to make a Star Wars movie about a skunk, and I want him to just fight bagels in Jedi robes, and I want to make sure that is, to me, the way I see Star Wars. And what should happen is they all point at the door and say, no, thank you, please get the hell out of here. But if they say, yeah, go ahead, do what that sounds fresh. That sounds new. And I'm like, great. Let's do some bagels doing some stuff. And then they're like, why would you do that? They told me I could. And it's like, so
You gave me $180 million to make them bagels.
To make bagels. And so that to me is like, if that's the pitch, when you go in there and you pitch, like, this is the way I see Star Wars. I see Star Wars this way. It's not, it's on the people who are running the ship to going, I don't know. Maybe that doesn't really maybe that song doesn't really fit there because that's not really what Star Wars, it's a great song, but it doesn't work. And no one's telling them, if no one's telling you that, you do it, oh yeah, it's great. They're trying to go to a younger generation. They're trying to go to, they're aiming at, I think we said this in the first couple episodes. They're just aiming at a different audience to try to capture it. And the way you got to do it is, to me, is aim at a new audience and still aim at the core. And they're just going past the core, saying, "No, we want a new core." And I think that's the wrong way to go. I just do.
Yeah.
I think they're hurting the brand when they're doing shows that are just all over the map, and they're just this is not. I don't know what this is, because the show is about these twins, and I still think it should have been about Jackie and Saul. And put it. I mean, people are telling me don't compare it to House of the Dragon. Hard not to. When I'm watching that show and looking at where you could make an HBO Max / Apple show like that kind of quality for a Star Wars show. I mean, Andor is the closest thing that we got, right? So I don't know. We have May, and she again fails the audition. We know she does, and then there's the conversation. Yeah, can I have your permission to do another approach? And we know she's going to say yes because we saw this scene already. So then we get to the quick thing, and there's Torben now going through his crisis, and they say they're going to tell the council about these two kids, and you're not wrong, Mike. This is Phantom Menace. So they're too old to start the trials. They can't do this. We've seen all of it already. Torben now decides, I got to get on a speeder bike, and I'm going to go try to do something, and that's where we go. We get back into that scene. We get back to the twins, and they're training, and they're in their middle. And is this the longest? It seems to me like they're there doing their ritual, the witches. The Jedi have enough time to go back and argue again, and the ritual's still going on. I don't remember the ritual being that long.
Yeah.
By the time
I don't know.
Mike's just giving up. But they give enough time to Jodie Turner-Smith has it. The witches are starting to say, "Hey, well, we can't let them take our kids," and then this is where we get to, the Zabrak has this whole moment with May where she's kind of corrupting and I think you said it best before, Mike. There are some times, I don't necessarily think it's just people who can't do Star Wars. I think there's certain people like, they give her this rage, the Zabrak to do the rage. They give her to do this kind of like, angry kind of alpha type of thing. And I feel like Jodie Turner-Smith would have done that way better. I feel like if they would have reversed the roles and they would have let her kind of, I feel like I would have been. Were either one of you guys? Let's start with you, Steph. Were you intimidated by her at all, the Zabrak at all, when she was screaming, yelling, getting mad at all? Did you feel like, oh, this is a menacing character?
Well, they didn't give her enough power against Saul. I didn't really mind the acting, but I think that I was like, oh, she clearly has no chance against him, which is interesting because I thought they were pretty powerful.
Right, but that's the whole point of the writing. Going back to Mike's point, because at one point she's swinging at him and he's just going like this, like no problem, like Neo at the end of Matrix, right? He's just kind of, yeah, you can't hit me, nope. And then why don't you turn into the smoke monster right away? If you can do that trick right away. She does the smoke monster stuff, and then she looks like she's super powerful at the end. But I'm with you in the beginning, and you're like, oh well, there's nothing with this fight that is. At all, I don't feel her to be a threat at all to him. But we said we were going to talk about the death of Jodie Turner-Smith, right? Why does Saul stab her?
Right.
Hold on. Can I say something too about this?
Sure.
So after she's stabbed, then she's like, I was going to tell her to go with you. Why did you turn into the monster and scare the shit out of him in the first place? Because he killed you.
Why not tell him right as he shows up?
And hey, sabers down, boys. Wookiee, hey. I'm going to give it to her. You're not. Whoa!
Yeah.
And we've seen Saul. These Jedi are the stupidest motherfuckers on the planet. We saw him on that planet. Uh-oh, here comes a flying moth. Boom.
Right.
Saul is impulsive. He'll kill anything without the drop of a hat. Of course he's going to kill her.
But it's like
Shit.
It's like,
stupid writing.
Stupid writing, but again, that scene looked cool. Like the slow motion with the sabers coming out. I just wish it was done in a different thing altogether. But because Torben, again, is the first one to take the saber out because, he's a Padawan, he's stupid. And then when I guess he doesn't even know that it's May, he says, Osha. When she walks out.
Yeah, that was weird too.
It was super weird. And then for some reason, she turns into the smoke monster, and then he stabs her, kills her.
And what was she going to do with as the smoke monster?
Right. Like, why? And
what was the point?
And how does he know whatever she's doing was bad? And then she's like, well, just to let you know, I was going to let her go with you. But now you killed me, and now she hates your guts. See you later.
Yeah. Like, what is that power? What were they going to do?
But what was he going to do? But what if she was going to let her go? Then why not say, hey, I know you're here. Things went bad before, but we had a conversation, and the Zabrak's a little pissed off and doesn't want to. I'll handle it. I'm still in charge.
Handle her.
And that's the other thing. So we're not in slow motion anymore at this point, because here is Jodie Turner-Smith telling Saul, saying, okay, I was going to let you go. I was going to let her go. And that took probably, 10 to 15 seconds for her to get that little speech out? What in the world is the Zabrak doing at that point where you just watched, if either one of you, if I'm standing there with the two of you, and someone wipes you out, and then I'm just standing there, and they're going to give you a speech. I'm just going to stand there and watch the speech, or I'm going to try to chop their head off. Like, what are you doing? She's standing there listening to the speech for 10 minutes. Well, I was going to let her go with you. And the Zapper's like, all right, let me finish it, and then I'll get mad. It's like, get mad right away. And you should be fighting Tobin, whatever his name is at this point. So it's like little things like that. It's like the details in this stuff, it matters. Because then the Zabrak starts screaming. And I will say, if we're going to throw into the positives, where I think that the little girl who plays May, I felt really bad for her as she's there, and Mama, she's here. She just watched Saul cut her down in cold blood. Which, how is Saul going to explain that to May now? Well, the reason why I killed your mom is because I freaked out. She turned into the smoke monster, and then I killed her. And I shouldn't have. So do you forgive me? Like, what's the excuse there? It's different to say to Osha. She's like, well, I lied to you because I thought your sister was dead. We wanted to try to protect you, and Trinity told me to do this, so I did. Okay, but what do you tell May at that point, Steph?
Right. I do feel really bad for May, and like you kind of understand her motive, I guess, moving forward, but it's just insane that the Jedi know they killed their mom in front of her and then are gonna blame the fire on this poor innocent
they're
child.
terrible. They're terrible people. And there were people that are trying to defend. Last night I saw on Twitter, were like, oh, people who were saying, why are they making the Jedi the bad guys? Because the Jedi come off like complete imbeciles in this episode, all the way around, from stealing children to justifying why they're lying and all, like everything. Like when I was a kid wanting to be a Jedi, if this is what kids saw as far as when they're growing up, this is the first thing you ever watched of Star Wars. Would you want to be a Jedi?
Right. No.
You'd want to be a smoke monster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm telling you, like, I couldn't believe it. Like, first person I called was Mike, and Mike hadn't watched the episode yet. So, then I tried calling a few other people that weren't around. I finally, first I got in touch with Frank Janish, and Frank loved the episode. Frank loved it.
We need to get someone like Frank on the show once and just go, okay.
Well, PLD loved it too. I talked about. I don't know. Listen, and I said to them both, and that's what I won't do is I won't tell them for being. I asked that question. I said I don't understand how. I said I don't understand how, and then they told me their reasons. I said, look, okay, we're opposite ends, and nobody. This is what people do wrong all the time, is because if if someone doesn't like it, you tell them, you know, they're horrible people, or if someone likes it, they're horrible people. And this, I can disagree with you. Like I told PLD and I were on the phone for like 15 minutes talking about it. He's like, no, I think this. I'm like, I said it lovingly. I'm like, I think you're a nutbag. I said, I think you're a nutbag, but I love you. And if you think it's that, if you really do think it's good, then good on you. I just don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got stuff.
Well, I just want to get to the part where all the witches die.
yeah. The whirlpool, which is absolutely insane. So, all right, so we get through the silly screaming and yelling by the Zabrak. She fights them off a little bit, and then she turns into the smoke monster and turns the Wookiee against them, right? But in that same time, the back and forth is happening with May. But yeah, so we're not intimidated by the Zabrak, but then she's like, no, you know what? Actually, I am more powerful than you think. I'm going to turn into a smoke monster, and somehow I'm going to possess a Jedi Master. That easy. And here comes the Wookiee. We finally get to see the Wookiee with the lightsaber. And then this ridiculous thing with the witches, for some reason, all together in this VR room together, going, whoa.
So
Right.
then I understand, were they controlling the Wookiee?
I guess.
Or was fucking Zabrak?
I guess she set up the wires in the VR, and they're doing the actual VR. It seems like, because, and the other side of it is to and maybe this is where Steph will go with this. So here are these witches, and we see at least powerful enough to control a Jedi Master, and yet one other Jedi Master by her lonesome takes them all out. And does she kill them or just knock them out? Like what?
Right.
What happens to them? Good stuff.
Right. It's like this. Unless the mother is so Anasaya, so much more powerful than the rest of the witches, which they don't really do a good job of explaining the chain of power and command, and why the girls are going to be so much more powerful than them. But she's able to take over the mind of a Jedi. He's not able to fight it, and then all of a sudden, this one Jedi, not even in the same room as them, can take over all of them and seemingly knock them out and perhaps kill them all.
Yeah, and what was she doing, by the way? Where was she?
Outside. She wasn't in the same room as them.
Right.
So how do you even know where to localize your power? I don't know. It was all confusing, and then I was like, "Are they dead?"
Yeah, it didn't explain that very well at all. But they're all sitting there holding hands, and then she is able to use one big power bomb and just sets them. I laughed so hard when that happened. It was so ridiculous, because did she kill them all? And if she did, that's more deaths on their hand. She just killed them all because they locked it. Well, they locked it in my friend's brain, and they were trying to kill my two friends. So you know what? F them. I'm gonna kill them all like this. And it's like, or they didn't, and she could have known and said, hey, or maybe she didn't know. Maybe she didn't know that they were all controlling. Maybe we don't know. We don't know if she knew, but if she did know, hey, I just mind screwed a bunch of like witches who are probably alive, and the place is on fire. So if we can save a couple of them, we should try. Or it's no, just let them burn.
Right, and like, is that now a power that we're to assume the Jedi have?
We don't know.
It's to like snap your neck through your brain.
They don't, right? If that is indeed what happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then we get the good son moment where we find finally what's been plaguing Saul for the longest time is that he's got to drop May instead of holding up both the kids, he holds up the bridge for some reason, and then May winds up crapping out, and then they have this. And what happened to Torben's face? Is that I missed it? I very well
the
could.
Wookiee, I think.
Did the Wookiee?
During the Wookiee fight, but you don't really. I missed.
You don't see it.
You don't see it, so there's no reason to smash his face like that.
Can we go back a second?
Sure.
To my second worst thing of the episode. And I videotaped this.
Before you do and save it, because I want you to hold that point, and I'll come back to it because I want to get to it, but I have to tell people about Liquid IV. I got to, because this is something that is really important and brand new to the show, and it's been wonderful to have them, and especially with the Olympics coming up. Let me tell you about Liquid IV. Here you go. So excited to talk about our next sponsor here too, because John, who's your for the Summer Olympics? What do you look forward to?
The basketball, the swimming, high diving, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
See, for me, my little one has been in. She's getting into gymnastics now.
Oh yeah, right. Gymnastics for sure.
So we are pumped to watch gymnastics with her. I cannot wait because I remember Mary Lou Retton growing up as a kid and all that stuff, and just tearing up watching the medal ceremonies and all of it. And everybody has the dream. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in the Olympics. I remember the boxing when boxing was part of it and doing all that. It's like the Olympics is now in full swing, and hydration, though, it's key for athletes and fans. So Liquid IV it is extraordinary. It's hydration for physical endurance, mental clarity, and overall well-being. So basically, what do? You tear, you pour, you enjoy a packet of it, and you love it. So I have tried it. I feel the energy, and I'm digging it because I think that one of the great things about it is that hydration, you really want to make sure that you can recover after a long day trying to keep up with, especially for me with my kids. Good Lord. And it's easier to stay hydrated while traveling. So you skip the overpriced drinks and all that. So here's what you do. Once again, you want to head on over to liquidiv.com. Use that code, though, big thing, at checkout. You're going to get 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using that code, big thing, at liquidiv.com. Now, you know what to do. You're going to get 4 of those delicious sugar-free flavors, whether it's white peach, green grape, raspberry melon, and lemon lime. I like the raspberry melon, personally. That's what I do. But head on over there. Check it out. All right, thank you. You want some energy to get through. That's what you do. Liquid IV. Watch next week's finale. Watch some and get some Liquid IV. Links in the description, as everything else is. All right, Mike, before we went to break, you had a point. What was it?
Yeah. We need to cover it because I filmed it with my phone and I was going to put up online, but I was like, so you know what? I don't want to deal with the crap I'm going to get for this.
Sure.
She sits there, May, takes the fire with the book and lights it. And then suddenly it's like, oh, no. What happened? It caught fire.
Mama,
I don't like this. Oh!
Right.
First of all, it's not like she took a little match and thought maybe just a couple pages. She had a thing in her hand that had fire in it with 2 shoots of fire.
What did she think was
that was
happen?
A handheld
bomb,
fucking flamethrower.
Yeah.
What did she think was going to happen? That book went up like that. And she didn't think that was going to happen? Like, oh no.
Right.
Oh, no. And that starts the fire. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking terrible. Fucking terrible, this
all right,
show.
I got to beat you 1,000 times.
Well, you beat me because I don't get like this a lot. But this show, the stupid things in this show, like she took a torch to a book. What did she think was going to happen?
Right. She had instant regrets. No, as they say in that one movie, no regrets. No regrets.
No regrets.
No. So, but then, then there's this
catchphrase for the show.
Perfect. Well, they have this conversation now to where it doesn't really make sense. Saul has this real attachment to this person he met either the day before or the day of, and now wants to tell everybody the truth, turn himself in, and there's no other Jedi Master that could probably teach this kid. So, and then the other thing we didn't really talk about is the fact that they weren't cloned; they were built from the same cells. Is that what happened? And then
what?
Remember they said that it's not twins. It's the same person, just split into 2.
Split in 2.
Okay.
What's the point? I mean, because I guess that's what the whole.
But they branded one and they didn't brand the other for some reason.
Well, they were about to. And then and then that's what happened in the first part of episode 3, and then the second part of episode 3, which we just saw last night. Which I agree with Steph. It should have just been 1 episode, and it was paced in the same way that. So She-Hulk to me was. I did like the first 2 episodes and then thought the rest of the show was just absolutely horrible. But what those first 2 episodes were not originally planned to air in the beginning. They were planned to air at the end. And then they said, oh, let's let people know kind of what the show is, how it connects to Marvel and do all that. And I think that if they should have continued the show in that vein, my personal opinion on it, but they maybe should have done something similar to this, to where they go, okay, look, we were going to put this episode as 7, but the pacing of it, the idea of it, it probably just makes, like Steph said it earlier, just make it like 1 big episode. But Steph, do you think it's maybe because they thought people were going to be more invested in this twin storyline than I think people really are?
Yeah, I think that, and I think that they really wanted to do a mystery.
Right.
They were really
it's
into having like some mysterious story unfold, and I feel like they already had that with Kymir's character.
Right. What's the? I mean, what is the mystery? Someone.
I don't know.
Some
So
people-
they
I
still
think
have to understand. They still have to explain why May hooked up with Kymir.
All
They didn't hook-
no,
We don't
he,
know.
He means get connected as far as like,
Oh.
not actually
Like-
hooking up. Yeah.
What?
They never saw They never saw face to face. Yeah, they have to explain why he.
How they
kind of
recruited
did-
them. How they
Yeah,
recruit
why? How they
When?
meet.
Right. In 40
When she wakes up in the burning
Oh,
temple
when
and everyone's dead,
In
where's
37
Kymir pop in?
in 37 minutes, how are they going to
No damn, because they're going to be on Coruscant with the temple explaining everything. There's no world that this show wraps
No,
up.
they need to
in
wrap
any
up- no.
serviceable manner.
I think Steph's right. I think that they're ending this episode with the understanding of like, oh, just wait to see what we do next season. And it's like, go away from this show. It's not because look, I'm not telling you that there aren't people who like this show. There's tons. I see tons of people who are writing on the walls that are loving it. We see people tweeting about how they absolutely love it. But it's the same point that I make about Star Wars all of the time. Right now, if you want that brand to be, one of the top like IPs, you got to unite the entire fan base. And if you just go into a pocket of the fan base that likes it, you can't make season 2 for $180 million. I'll tell you that. Because clearly, I think that what is happening though is this. And people are watching this show. And I bet you that, the numbers have been going down, but people are watching it. Now, the question is, are they watching it because we all watched it? And I granted Mike that we watched it also because of work and we talk about it. I guess I can ask you that. Would you, if you didn't have to watch this show, would you be watching it right now?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to watch Agatha.
Okay.
I saw that trailer and I'm like, nope.
Not for you.
After what they had done with Doctor Strange and the WandaVision, they kind of took this side horn with it. And knowing the fact of behind the scenes of what's going on with what Marvel realized, we went too far, but this was like pre that, I'm not watching it.
Okay, so you don't have to cover it on anything, so that
No, I don't have
answers
to
the
cover
question.
it. So I was like,
but
there's too much stuff out there that I do have to want to watch and I don't get to.
Yeah,
I got to pick and choose.
Steph, at this point, if you were watching it, without having to cover it for work, would you go out of your way to watch it every week?
No, I would maybe on a random Sunday
Check it out.
try to get through some. Yeah.
I am very curious to know what the numbers of this show is right now as far as ratings.
Well, all I ever hear is like, it's the highest rated Disney Plus show this year. Okay, what else has been out there?
Did they drop it?
Bad Batch.
Yeah, but has anything dropped? Has anything?
That's not a little doff in the cap that they think it is.
But has anything dropped? But have the numbers dropped since?
I don't know.
That's the question.
What are its numbers compared to Ahsoka? That'd be an interesting one.
I think better than Ahsoka, from what I hear.
That's surprising, just because of how
Ahsoka,
the hardcore fans love that show. And
as far as and it's funny because when it started, I felt like it was going to be a little bit different. I thought they were going to dive deeper into the actual writing of this show, and it turned to some of the writing in the show was just absolutely abysmal. I will probably now. I was going back and forth to see which one I would rank the lowest. Would it be this or Boba Fett? And I would rank this as the lowest.
I told you like 2 weeks ago, I'll watch Boba Fett again in a heartbeat before I go back.
Well, you know why is even though it's a matter of it's not the same show. If you look at the episodes listed, those 2 Mandalorian episodes are in the Boba Fett series. So those 2 episodes alone it jumps up. And what's more rewatchable, those 2 episodes or anything that we've seen thus far?
Let me ask you guys this: we talk about writing, and we praise Andor because Gilroy had said to them, like, "Don't watch anything else. We're telling our story.
Yeah,
we've got other people that will bring us in." Do you think these writers, Leslie brought them in, going, "Don't watch Star Wars. Just we're going to tell the tale we want"? Because I get the argument when I see people on Twitter go, you gotta get people that love Star Wars to write Star Wars and understand. Like I do get it. Sometimes I get it.
Yeah,
I do.
I do think that. I think she has. To be fair,
I just get it. I understand
fair
that
to her,
argument where people see stuff and they're just like, these people just don't like Star Wars.
Well, but to be fair to her, I think she put people in the room. She said as much. She put people in the room. There were a lot of writers who liked Star Wars, and then there were some that didn't know anything about it at all. I don't mind that approach if there's a few people out that are really good at writing, and like Tony Gilroy's not a big Star Wars fan, but he's a great writer and he's good. And so he surrounded himself with people, and that's where I think that was blown out of proportion. If it was like, I'm just putting people in the writing room who don't give a crap about Star Wars and we're doing our own thing, that's a problem. But I do think there were people that I just think that their approach and what they were, I think that the way that these are probably the people that are writing this show are probably in the portion of, like, if they weren't watching the show and this show would be made for them and they would be in that portion of the audience that we're talking about that loves it. So
it's
to them, they're making everything they want.
Always write what you want to see.
Yeah, and that's what
you want to see, and these are what these writers want to see,
and they're proud of what they've done, and good for them.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Okay.
So if it's look, if they look and they go, we're proud of what we did. This is the story we wanted to tell, and that's it. We're changing the way that how we like Star Wars, and we did this, and then more power to them on that. But you're also going to lose a lot of people in the process.
Here's a good example. I'm going to maybe it'll be a good example, maybe a bad one. Did you guys ever watch the TV show Gotham?
Some of it.
No.
Some of it.
It was awful in the context of what Batman and these characters are. But if you took Batman out of it, he's not in Gotham City. These are the characters. You enjoy it for what it was. But so that's the thing. Like, if it wasn't in Star Wars with this stuff, if it was a different sci-fi show, well, that's the things that they're telling,
like a CW show or something. But
it could work.
Well, the way you don't think so, Steph?
Oh no.
No, because I am looking at it I'm not as concerned with, I appreciate when they follow canon and respect it, but I'm not like, it's not a make it or break it for me. I'm okay with bending the rules a little bit. I really don't care that much. For me, why I love film and TV, why I like to write is because of character arcs and because of the actual story, just seeing the story through the characters. And I have a massive problem with most of the main characters, and I don't understand their arcs at all.
That's fair. I was watching this, and you know what I felt like? I felt like, right before, we would still say, and people will know better than I do, because I only know like the surface level side of it, of the Sci-Fi Network, right? The only show I ever remember having like HBO quality type of a show was Battlestar Galactica on Sci-Fi. A lot of the Sci-Fi Network shows were kind of like, not back in the day. Not a lot of effort wasn't put into them, and they kind of looked like television. For a $170 million show, I shouldn't feel like I'm watching a show on the Sci-Fi Network. You know what I mean? And that's what it feels like sometimes.
Right. And it's like there's parts of it where I'm like, it is made. It's like, I like how it looks a lot of the times. I like the idea of it. It's just, for me, it's not. It's just
it's not hitting.
I'm not. Yeah, it's not hitting. Like, I don't feel like I'm rooting for a single character. Like right now, I'm rooting for CAMEO, which is crazy.
Right. No, you're not. It's not crazy, because that's who's been written the best. He has been written the best, and his performance has been the best. So it went from being, I like Saul, he's kind of like a Qui-Gon character, to he sucks, and he's kind of a creep. And then I felt bad for Manny. I felt bad for him, the stranger, what he was doing. I'm like, okay, maybe he'll get his. Now him, I understand why he's trying to find a Padawan, and there's probably something a little bit more even to that. There's a little bit more mystery to him. But the fact, I don't know how they don't look at like what that guy is doing performance-wise and say, we cannot lose the momentum of what we're building with him right now. Episode 7 needs to be about, give me a flashback of his story.
Right.
That's where they should have went with that. I saw all this other witch stuff already. We did that already. Who cares? It's like, if they would have had a full flashback on his story, I think we're talking about this way differently.
Right.
Yeah. But look,
Yeah, because I want to know about the Jedi that screwed him over.
Yes.
I want to see him in the Jedi temple. I want to know, like, how old is he? Like, there's so many interesting things about him.
you could have done, and you could have given us the show that you announced in 2020. But lastly, before we say goodbye, what I will say is this: it has, and I think some people might feel the opposite. It has, to me, made me more excited for Skeleton Crew. I think that there will be a lot of people that say it's made me less excited for Skeleton Crew because now what the hell are they going to do with that one? And I understand that. It's a fair argument. But with John Watts and everything he did with The Old Man and No Way Home and everything else that he did, and listening to him when the three of us spoke to him about what this show could be, and Jude Law, I'm hopeful for that show. We're going to know immediately, in the same way we did in this show, what the tone's going to be. And I'm hoping that all of us, because the show comes out in, I don't know, 4 months, 3 or 4 months. So we'll be back here again with all three of us right now. I'm looking at Steph. I'm looking at Mike. You both have sour pusses on your face right now because who wants this show to be bad? Nobody. I mean, well, I should say nobody. Nobody in this room wants it to be bad. And that is why we'll be hoping for Skeleton Crew. But Steph, do you feel the same, or does it hurt your spirits more? I'm very curious.
I'm nervous about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How come?
Because this is a lot of the shows I'm just like been so excited for, and I'm continuously like underwhelmed. I just am thinking more and more maybe Star Wars in this generation isn't as much for me.
Oh man, that's a heartbreaker.
That's a whole man
heartbreaker. It's. I mean, if you go back, that's
Steph.
and that's because. But that's something though. Two old farts like me and Mike. It's like if you're at Lucasfilm and you see us talking about this, like who cares? Your Star Wars is gone, guys. So eat it. If you wanted to say that, you could.
Sure.
If you hear that come out of Steph Sabra's mouth, who is significantly younger, the generation that you're going for, saying that, I would then start to go, wait a minute, maybe we should rethink our strategy. I mean, that's what if I was looking, I'm saying, man, and I'm sure she's not the only one, Mike.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Skeleton Crew?
Man. I don't know.
You're same. Okay.
Again, when did Mando come out? 2019?
Yeah, the end of 2019.
Yeah. 5 years. 4 years. 4 years. 4.5 years.
It'll be 5 by the time
remember. Do you remember when that show came out? How every single person
was pumped.
Everyone, your generation, my generation, 10-year-olds. We were all like, God, can you wait for next episode? Holy shit! Right. I nailed it. What is this? And I get it. Maybe Star Wars should do this, where it's like we're gonna have so much we can do, so we can give something to everyone. And this show is just not for me. Skeleton Crew, I want to give John Watts the benefit of the doubt because he did The Old Man, which I loved.
Yeah.
But I've now in the point where how many times have they told us the story we're going to get, and it's not. They did Book of Boba Fett with this. They tell us what it's going to be, and we don't get that. I know. Remember the gangster story? It was going to be a gangster. It was going to be Goodfellas in space.
Yeah.
It was the landlord.
I still don't know. I mean, if there is one magician better than David Blaine, it's Kathleen Kennedy. I don't understand. Like when there's no movie that's come out since 2019. The brand has not been in that together feel since Mandalorian season 2, and yet anything keeps coming out. These conversations. I mean, maybe if you're Bob Iger, and you say, look, people are talking about our show, and that's how. I mean,
you could see the creative pull that just does destroy these things. But like Mando was going,
yeah,
and then they took Grogu and they put him apart. Fans love that. We're selling like crazy. We got to put them back together, and then everything had to change, and that's when Mando 3 didn't really work because they had to rush them in there, and we had to stick Mando and Grogu in Boba Fett because people wanted to see them. You see the creative, or the suits trying to mess with the creative, and it goes off the rails.
It does. And I think we went off the rails a little bit, but hey, we're passionate about it. We want to see it. succeed. And right now, to us, it isn't doing that. But hey, you might feel completely different. You might love this episode. You might say, you guys are crazy. This is a great
You
show.
guys stink. It's awesome.
You guys are stinking, and that's fine. Put it in there. Let's have a cordial conversation if we can. So, how'd you feel about overall with the episode? Put your thoughts in there. I want to know. Steph, where can they find you?
At Steph's on the World Girls.
Mike Kalinowski.
At Mike Kalinowski.
Pretty easy. Pretty
simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's right. So hit that subscribe button. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. We have an interview up with comedian Sam Morrell that went up yesterday. Roxy and I did the interview. Make sure you check that out. I have Out of the Theater reaction for Fly Me to the Moon. That's up there. I got some other stuff coming up. I got Twisters next week. I got Deadpool the following week after that. So there's a lot of stuff going on this channel. So for Out of the Theater reactions, I'll be doing the finale. We'll all be back here for the finale, I think, next week. So make sure you check that out. This studio will look different. Brett's coming in to help fix up the studio. So there's a lot of things happening. Hit the button. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the flip side.